with Goody podcast. And here's your host, Goody.
Welcome, everybody, to the Gabbin with Goody podcast. I'm your host, Goody. Today, episode 7, here with my good friend, fellow firefighter, longtime partner for a little bit on B Crew. And again, good friend, Bobby. Thank you for opening up your home again as the podcast goes mobile. Once again, beautiful home. Thank you very much for having us here, and thank you for being on the podcast.
No, thank you for having me as well. This is fun.
Well, it's a pleasure, Bobby. It's a pleasure.
Exciting.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get on to our little conversations.
Yeah. So, my name is Bobby Dooley. Born and raised in Hampden County, and went to school in Hampden County. Went to college in Hampden County. Done a lot, seen a lot, experienced a lot, learned a lot. Grew up in a pretty modest middle-class family. My parents worked hard, trying to raise 4 kids. I'm the third of 4. I have 2 older sisters, and played high school baseball, golf, the swing sports. I'll tell you right now, those 2 sports don't ever match up.
It seems like a different swing, too.
No, totally. You end up sucking at one of them because the other one messed up the other one. So, and then went to Westfield State College with hopes and admirations to become a police officer, and had every intention. I even took 3 separate police tests, including a state trooper test, and made it like 3 or 4 steps into the process at Enfield Police Department, the first Connecticut town just south of here.
Yep.
And almost made it. But funny thing, in the interview process, they were mad at me. They said that I didn't care too much about the town because I didn't know the population of the town at the time. I remember the guy pulled me aside. He was like, "Wow, how come you don't even know the population of the town? How could you even be a police officer?" I'm like, "Oh, jeez." Yeah,
that's an interesting thing to be really harping on during the interview.
He was like super upset. I'm like, "Oh man, I did not get this job." And I walked out of there. I'm like, "Nope, didn't happen."
Yeah, I mean that's not an uncommon thing. I mean, I know that in our town, sometimes at one point it was frowned upon for you to be out of, not from around or not from the town.
Yeah.
And it definitely, with civil service, you have that upper hand if you are a resident.
Yep.
So it was definitely catered to people who are from there.
Yeah.
And obviously you want, and I touched on this on a past episode, and we'll kind of digress a little bit here, but I talked about sometimes it's not easy, yourself being from Chicopee, coming into a town which is actually right next to the town we work in.
Mm-hmm.
So coming into the town and being a non-resident, there were, I want to say there was hardships isn't the word, but that there were definitely guys on the department that made it difficult for people who were coming from out of town.
Yeah. Back then.
I mean, now you're good luck if you try to get somebody from the town. I mean, we've been lucky recently with a few guys from the town, but they stressed, and we talked about that this morning when we got off shift today and yesterday I don't know why we were talking about it, but the alarm room and the importance of like knowing your streets. And certain captains were like adamant that you weren't coming out of the alarm room unless...
Remember the tests, the paper tests?
You're right.
Street drawings? Like, what street is that? I'm like, what? I don't even know where we are.
I'm not from this town. I don't know where this is. And I mean, we've come a long way from that.
Absolutely.
I mean, some guys still kind of, look into it and go, hey, you should know your streets. And it's easy. Yeah. I mean, it's more convenient for you to know. But if you don't, like, really... like it's not the end of the world now, whereas before it was, oh no, you can't drive a truck.
Now we have the app. The app does it all.
You can't drive.
Yes.
You can't drive this vehicle. You can't go there. You can't go here. Things like that. So
how I got into the fire
Yeah.
service is when I was going to school to become, criminal justice. I was like minoring in sports medicine, sports care. I never finished it too. I realized that wasn't the path that I wanted to go on. I took an EMT course, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. And then I realized that, I can make some money on the side when I'm in school, going to work on the ambulance. So I went and got hired at the big private company in Springfield. Everyone knows it, and I ended up doing 5 years there. Got my paramedic through them. I did a lot of crazy, cool stuff, and that really opened up my eyes to be like, hey, what? There's another option to go into firefighting, because back in 2007, 2008, 2009, firefighting was actually kind of tough to get into.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you had to get your paramedic. And being from Chinkopee, and then at the time, my wife, but my girlfriend at the time, we were living in Springfield. And Springfield and Chinkopee, they weren't paramedic services.
Yep.
And so I took one fire test and nailed it. And I got one letter. And that was from Lovell.
Yeah.
One letter to come and sign. That was it. Nowadays, kids, you get your paramedic license, you're getting job offerings now. Like, hey, come work for Cambridge.
Yeah.
They say, Cambridge Fire Department in Massachusetts, they'll just try to sweep up everything. Anybody, you take a test, hey, come and work for us. They'll hire you on the spot.
Yeah.
A local department on the other side of the river from Springfield, they were doing that. They were just, hey, you pass the test, we're just gonna hire you, and we'll figure out whether or not we want you or not, because we don't want to lose the opportunity to hire somebody, which is it's wild to think. And then literally, 14 years ago, it was like, you get one shot.
Basically, yeah.
That was it. That's all I got. I got one shot.
I mean, there was the influx. I mean, when I got on in 2013, that was when the start of the mass exodus of firefighting.
Mm-hmm.
Firefighters all over the place, because just like anything else, you get guys that you hire in at the same time, and then all those guys are retiring at the same time. So when I got hired with two other guys, it was like you said, it was tough. I think I got another letter from Marshfield.
Nice. Close.
And I actually drove out there, believe it or not. I drove out there, and I just as like
you got it.
I drove out there, and I grabbed the application. The guy's like, oh, what'd your score? And I was like, I didn't do too great on whatever. And the guy's like, yeah, there's a lot of people coming, and you're probably not going to get. I'm like, that's fine. I just want to see the packet and see what it looks like. And obviously, I didn't take it. And then luckily, timing.
Mm-hmm.
Timing is really a lot in that too. I mean, score is one thing, but timing to be on the list when the department you want is hiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all timing.
Is almost half of it.
Or sometimes kids now, they'll get word from members or chiefs like, hey, a spot might be opening up. Make sure you take that test. Make sure you pass that test, and we're gonna pull.
Well, they have to do that.
Yeah, and now it's like, but before it's just like, hey, here's a pool of 10 guys, and they're all basics. And those are one paramedic, and you get one spot. It's tough.
And now it's even harder, because you're
telling kids we have that Explorer kid that comes by the fire department. Really cool program. Get your paramedic. You'll be able to walk on wherever you want.
Yeah, and especially.
I don't know. 5 years from now it might change. But
well, I don't know, man. 5 years. It's been. How long has it been like this now?
Yeah, well, that's true.
It's been very hard to find a candidate that's, either wants to come to your town, or, just wants to be a paramedic in general. Do you want to, really, if you want to be a firefighter, in all honesty, you want to be a firefighter. You don't want to be a paramedic.
The way to get in is the paramedic.
Exactly. And then the way to stay is paramedic. Because if you're on a department that doesn't have EMS, like really they could just look at you and be like, nah, sorry, we're gonna cut now because budget's rough, and but you're in a place that like our department that basically self-sustains itself with through EMS.
Yeah.
That's why we have jobs. If we didn't have the ambulance, there'd probably be like 10 of us there. Luckily I'm number 8, so I'd probably be there. But it is, like you said, it's not easy, and it wasn't easy back then either. But it was a different not easy. Like there was people, and I think when I interviewed, there was like 7 or 8 of us because they were hiring. Through civil service, you hire 3.
Mm-hmm.
That means you got to interview 6 plus 1.
Yep.
So
some guy won't show up.
Yeah, and now it's like you get a person to sign, and they've signed somewhere else,
mm-hmm.
and they're just getting snatched up, like you said, with the Explorer program and having paramedic students now.
That's huge. I have always told like anybody who's naysaying that, I'm like, hey, it's eyes in the department.
Yeah.
People have to see what we do. People have to experience. I would say more or less the experience. We're not Chicago Fire. We're not Backdraft. It's different.
We could try to be.
The first thing I do when I come back from the fire is take my shirt off.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
It's just like that.
Not at all.
That's exactly how the fire department is.
We're all like, what's for dinner?
That's at 9 in the morning. What's for dinner?
Everyone's arguing about what is for dinner, who's cooking it. I cooked last week. Yeah.
It's the small things that we worry about at the fire department.
That is something we always worry about. And but going back, like starting my career off at the big private service in the Springfield area, and doing the
You just say
crazy
AMR. AMR.
Okay, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, no, good. I mean, why not? They're like world.
Yeah.
They're national. So
You
we could say.
experience the horrible partners. You experience the weird partners. A lot of weird partners, and then you get great partner. And I had at the end of my career an absolutely awesome partner, and we worked together for 2 years, and we actually both ended our careers with AMR together on the same day, which is kind of cool. She went off to become a nurse, and I went to work for the fire department. So it was actually a really cool experience. I did a lot of cool stuff. It's always like when you're in it, you hate it, and you're like, this stinks. But when you're out of it, like, oh, I actually did some really weird, really cool stuff that sculpted me, or stuff I've learned from. Like we talked before, we started this the disaster response team going down. Again, during it, I was like, what the heck is going on here? This is mismanaged, wild. This is crazy. But looking back on it, doing I think it's 29 days in Biloxi, Houston, San Antonio, New Orleans for 2 separate hurricanes that hit that area. 2008, 2009, something like that. Hurricane Gustav and Ike. You can look it up later. It was a crazy experience. Seen a whole part of the country that I'll never see. Like you're flying to Houston, you're flying to Austin, but go to that weird town 20 miles away from Houston. That's what I saw.
Yeah.
And we were tasked like, you show up to a nursing home. You're like, there's 100 people in this nursing home, and we have 14 ambulances. We have to evacuate the entire nursing home and just drive north. Stood at the back door of a hospital in New Orleans as the water was flooding in. Seen the Houston River just completely inundate like a bridge. Helicopters sitting on flight lines and having medevac C-130s just loaded up with patients from a hospital, just trying to get them out of the area. I think it was a really cool thing to see. Really, I have some crazy stories from there too.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like you said, it's an experience, and these are the opportunities that came out of you transitioning from that. All your mindset was, oh, we're going to be a cop, be a cop.
Yeah.
Transition, got your EMT, then you get your medic.
Yeah.
And now AMR gives you the opportunity to do those things, right? You go down, AMR being a nationally, a national company, does give you that opportunity to be on those task forces and like do these deployments, And that was something that I worked in the city of Springfield too, but for a different company, much smaller company. And we never really had those opportunities. I mean, obviously we had the opportunities to work in the city, and we didn't do as much 911 because we weren't primary. But yeah, I know not like that time in my career at least was like what shape, like you said, shapes you
Yeah.
into becoming
Harder.
yeah, and who you are now. You know, as
more.
you know, you're able to you know, whether that's like speaking to patients, you know, just being there and like treating a patient, doing those kind of things. I didn't spend a lot of time as a medic in Springfield because once I got my medic, I was like, I am out of here. Like, I'm trying to get on the fire department. I had already gotten basically the thumbs up. I was just waiting to get in the door, and it was different. You know, I did find myself after three and a half years in Springfield being like, dude, I gotta stop. I gotta get even doing just like your regular calls, like your wait and returns and, you know, transfers. And I was just like, as weird as it sounds now, I was getting burnt out of Springfield. I was like, guys have done much longer time there, and God bless them, because I was just like, I was just dealing with a lot of, I didn't feel appreciated with both the company and from the people I was treating.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like find myself like having fun anymore. Like, people that I was working with were all transferring out. So like, I'm like, this is, you know, I already knew it was coming to an end, and I'm like, I'm going to work my way out of here, and got on Ludlow.
But you realized that early.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I still commend the people that are still on our job now, and they go back and work there.
Oh my God, I couldn't do it.
Man, but I think
some guys do it.
That speaks volumes to them, because I think they actually really enjoy the work and really get a lot out of it, and they're learning, and they're all very, very smart people.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's what you want. That's what they want. I mean, the companies want too. The people that stay there for a long time are usually in it for reasons other than a paycheck, I think. And I think that's important, because just like any other town or city, everybody needs those good emergency responders, and I think that's very commendable.
Yeah, and you need like that foundation, you know, especially in a private company.
Yeah.
Like, you need those guys who are willing to like come back, because if you don't, like, who do you have left?
Because a lot of us have side jobs
Mm-hmm.
or side gigs. Look at
Yeah,
you know?
podcast.
Podcast.
What do you know?
But I know a lot of firefighters that have landscaping businesses.
Yep.
They plowed, drove trucks. I started a small home renovation service. You know, Corey with the pizzas.
Yep. The baking,
The baking.
cooking. Yep.
With cooking, the Instagram. I think that's awesome. There's other people that went to the other medical fields like nursing. And I know somebody who went to the academy and went with the respiratory therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And they just found their niche.
I mean, and that stuff is like, it's easy. It's an easy transition. Like, if you're going to be a paramedic and then you want to be a nurse, like, the transition there is fairly seamless. You know, we do a lot of things that.
It's a different circle of hell.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I give them all the credit, because I could not.
Yeah.
There's a reason I'm a firefighter and a paramedic. I just can't be walking around an ER. I can't be walking around like a floor. It's just not going to happen. So. I'm the guy who likes to be like, I go to this address, then I go to this address, then I go to this address, then I go to that one.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the guy who goes, oh, hey, I'm in the ER. And I'm looking around, I'm like, patient number 18 of the day. I'm like, no, that's not me, sorry. But as things get busier, you know, you notice more and more that's just not, you know, the case. You know, you go to the hospitals, even like the smaller community hospitals now, you're like, the other day we went to one of the smaller hospitals in the area, and it was just packed.
Yeah.
You know, and then you just think about it, and you're like, oh, well, if this place is packed, that means Bay State's really packed.
The other one's busy. Yeah.
You know, and then it's getting crazy. And to now reference it to our department, When I first got on in 2013, what you got on in
11.
so fairly, close. The call numbers were like significantly less.
Yeah.
And we've only been on for, 11 years, almost 15 years. It's almost insane to go from like a 2,500 number to a, double that.
5.
Now
Yeah.
you're looking at, doing almost double that in medicals alone,
Yeah.
not including your, like fire calls. Not that we, again, we don't get a lot of fires.
I think during
Smoke detector things.
I learned this quickly in our fire department is that everyone thinks Chicago Fire, backdraft, we're a fire department. And I would now counter that we're an emergency department. We handle people's emergencies, their worst days.
Mm-hmm.
So, whether or not it is a medical electricist, flooded basements, how many do we get of those?
Yeah.
How many do we get a carbon monoxide detector sounding? People just needing help getting into the house, lockouts. The emergencies are no longer defined as the car accident, the big house fire. It's now a wide swath of issues that we now have to handle. And I think specializing in emergencies rather than just fire or just EMS combined, or we have to do so much now. You think about the equipment that we have in our trucks. We 2 or 3 weeks ago, we just had a ruptured oil tank in someone's basement.
Yep.
You would think, oh no, the HVAC guys handle that. How long does it take to get an HVAC guy or whatever to your house? So we have the equipment now in one of our trucks to kind of, hopefully not flood your basement up with home heating oil,
At
which
least
would be a horrible problem.
At least, mitigate
Yeah,
the emergency,
so
as you would say.
To say that we're now an emergency department is more accurate.
And to what you just said there a little bit is, what do you do? Like as a homeowner, something happens
Yeah.
and you don't know what to do. Who are you going to call? The fire department, the police department.
911.
That's the number. They're like, hey, my basement's got,
Yeah.
like you said, 3 inches of water in it,
Yeah.
or my water tank blew, or this to that, And you, like you said, we provide that service for people, with our, we have portable pumps and we have, wet vacs and we do all that stuff. And the other day, perfect example, lady calls the department saying that, she's got a ring stuck on her finger, right?
Oh yeah.
So she's like, oh, the jeweler
Jewelers.
told her, go down to the fire department, they'll take it off.
Yeah.
And she came down, took the ring off and everything, obviously she was very gracious for our service, but that's just another example of things that people like, you wouldn't think about it, but, we do those, I don't know how many times, and it used to be, people would be like, oh my God, I don't want to lose my finger, you cut your ring off and do this and that. And now the people just call up and go, hey, can I come down there? And, my jeweler told me to come down there because you can cut my ring in 2 places.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even cut the ring. There's a fancy trick that one of the guys on my crew does with dental floss, and it came right off.
And I think that's important to, it helped her out.
Yeah.
And it preserved whatever that ring was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's...
And we were just like, don't put this ring back on for a while until you figure out.
It's a testament to people that want to do this profession. No matter what the problem is, we figure stuff out.
Yeah.
It may not be always the easiest, simplest, cheapest way, but you called us for a reason. You called us because you have a problem. And we're going to try to at least get the information to you to solve it, or we're going to solve it for you.
Yeah, we'll point you in the right direction.
Absolutely.
If
And I think
can't be the guy that's the end all, but
And that's one of the things that really kind of stuck with me instead of going down the police path. Not that I have any problem with people there. Like 2 brother-in-laws that are police officers. My best friend's a police officer. It's what we do is I find super rewarding. because you can solve so many so many problems. And I think it's a cool niche thing to say you can do. Like, oh yeah, I've been up there. Oh,
Yeah.
I've done that. Oh, yeah, I know what to do. You got to do this.
Yeah, it's at its basic level, customer service.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
That's huge.
and we do a lot of public assists, like
Yeah.
you said, and I remember back when I was in college, when I studied fire science, they talked about a chief out in Arizona in Phoenix. Phoenix had at the time, and they might still, I don't know, had a privatized fire department. Like, it was privately owned, run, and they had a chief who was all about customer service. Because he was basically like, you look at it this way: these people that we serve are expecting a service, and we're going to give them whatever we can give them. They were getting killer bees out of trees, and bees nests. They were doing all that,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like what it is. It's like I said before, you're calling 911, and you have a problem. And if the cops can't fix it, then who they're going to call? They're going to call the fire department.
Yeah.
The fire department's going to be like, hey, we can either do it or we'll point this person in the right direction. That phone call for the lady in the ring got transferred over to us. And I was like, yeah, we'll take care of it. Come on down.
Yeah. Now calling 911, you're probably going to get all the 3 services.
Oh, yeah,
Anyways, on most calls,
for sure.
and but going back, like, starting my career at Lava, I'm probably, I'd have to think back, at the 10-year mark, so the 10-year roster or whatever, if you looked at it. I'm still on the same crew I started on. I was never switched. I still have somebody on my crew that I started with. And we've been on the same crew for a long time now. And before the recent retiree, that he was there for the longest period of time too.
Yeah.
And
I don't think he ever changed.
I don't think he ever changed. And here I am not changing.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild. And I've been on B crew a very long time now. I never came to the point where they moved me off of it. And I think that's pretty cool. My stamp on B crew has been for a long time now.
Yeah,
It's
you got a span there, and
I still have it. And now being named lieutenant of B crew, I was fully expecting when we got named lieutenant, the 4 of us, that hey, there's got to be a shakeup. And I'm like, oh no, there's not. I'm staying with my crew, which had its challenges, but for me, I love it because those are my guys. I love it every day. It's challenging, sure, but I wouldn't give it up because those are my guys, and they know me, and I think they know what to expect of me, and I can do this, have the same feeling. I know what to expect of them because we've been together for a very long time, and it's a unique thing. So being on where I am in the department right now, it's fun, it's wild, it's a great time. I was talking to my wife the other day with the upcoming interviews. I'm like, I love it. There's always those days you're like, dang, I'm sick of this, whatever, drama or bad calls or whatever. But I'm like, every day I'm like, no, you put that shirt on, you put that badge on. I've had a great time, and hopefully continue to have a great time. It's a really rewarding career, and it's really admirable. We're in it, and you don't get to see maybe how admirable you think your job is, but you go around town, whatever, basketball games, football games, you're like, oh, what do you do? What do you do? I'm this, I'm that. What do you do? I'm a firefighter. I'm like, oh, it's cool. You guys got a crazy schedule. What's that like? What's this like? Have you ever seen this? I'm like, yeah, done all that.
Nope, never seen it.
Never.
Never seen it. Not once. Never had a bad day in my life.
All we do is read poetry.
All we do is take our shirts off and sit in the recliners. That's all we do.
But the department has also given me a lot of opportunities too. And looking back, not saying that I wasn't interested in it, but I somehow became the technology guy.
Yeah.
Everything's blamed on me. That computer's broken. Bob's fault.
I remember
Why is that computer broken? Bob's fault.
a former captain of ours would always used to say that.
Yeah.
What is this, Bob? Technology!
I think he used to curse me for technology. I'm like, that's not my computer. I don't know why
I didn't do anything.
It's not even my fault.
And we'd be like, yeah, Bob, yeah.
But I've done a lot when it comes to technology in the air and for the department. I made the callback program, the infamous callback.
Yeah, the vein of everyone's existence, the callback
I
program.
love the fire department. I want to talk about it. I made that, and we used to write it on a piece of foam board on the wall. I'm like, we can just make a computer program that does that. Like, what are you talking about? What do you know? And I did it, and we were still using paper PCRs.
Yep.
We were just switching over to ePCRs. So I became an administrator with the program we're using now, and kind of did the implementation on it. I thought that was really cool. I was part of the committee and the implementation of going from the dispatch,
Yep.
to central dispatch.
Central dispatch.
I thought that was kind of wild. And as of 2 years ago, I became the implementer and administrator of our new station program, which has its ups and downs, of course, with every new program, but we were just kind of talking about the app.
Yep.
On how it gives everybody on the department a better view of their daily lives, their calls, to do their job. And we were just talking about knowing the streets.
Yep.
We shouldn't say, yeah, you should know your streets.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you get this app, and you'll just go, boop.
Yeah, you just
and
click on the
call,
map and it
the call
shows
comes
you.
onto your screen, and you're like, just click on it, you're like, oh, it's right there. I use it sometimes now, just like, you can zoom out and see the house of where it's halfway down the street.
Yeah.
It's at the very end of the street. So you're not looking at each house going 88, 89, 90.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 180. We got to keep going.
I still do that.
Yeah. No, but yeah.
I still look at all the house numbers. I'm like 36,
so
38.
So for some reason, I became the technology guy.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and that's not a bad thing. I think you had, like you said, you inherited it, and it kind of
It barely was involved. There was barely technology. There was a pencil sharpener in the place. So, yeah, that's technology.
They were, the transitioning from like the old era to the new era.
Yeah.
We
And
both
change.
of us have kind of gone through that because, when we got on there, like you said, we talked about the alarm room and you had the log book.
Yeah.
And you're writing in green pen for EMS and red pen. We talked about that this morning too.
Ridiculous.
But it was something that we, like the department as a whole, needed to do, and it was tough for those guys that, that were in the old era. It was tough for those guys. And
it's still tough.
some of the guys still have some problems.
Yeah.
But we're with the help of all these new programs and all these new systems and apps, things are becoming more streamlined.
Yeah.
And I think it's, in the long run, it's going to be, obviously, it's been beneficial now. But as we transition more, because we still love to hold on to, paperwork and things like that, it'll become just like second nature. People will start being, a couple months back, we transitioned from writing down the daily checkoffs on paper
All on the app.
to now it's all on the app.
Yeah.
So I see it's good. It's been good, and and we need that because we're, like we alluded to before, we're even busier than we've been in the last 10 years. We're as busy as we've been, and it's only going to get worse as we start getting more of these rehabs, all these, different low-income housings. As good as it is for people who, now, okay, they have affordability to come into the town, like, Ludlow, it just, out of necessity, becomes, all right, well, how many units are in there? 53, 93, 100 beds. And all the guys are doing when they're walking through these places is going, that's 100. This building's got 100 calls in it. This building's got 200 calls in it.
Using this technology, using these apps, I'm gonna kind of go off a little dorky tangent here, is important for, you know, now being an officer in the department, like, and having these programs available and implementing them and seeing the back doors of all these systems. It's data collection.
Mm-hmm.
And before writing it down in a logbook, you'd never be able to go back. It would take you forever. Like, how many times have we been to this address?
Yeah.
What were all the calls for that address in the last 5 years? It'd just be kind of difficult to figure that information out. And now with these apps, we can literally just run surveys and we can figure out where are all our calls, where are our resources going, and how can we use that? How can we apply for grants better to get more money? Having written a grant recently and securing that money, finding all this information out is important. Being able to collect it is even more important. And that's what I see. And again, it's kind of a dorky.
Well, I mean, but like you said, it's an important thing, especially now. You know, again, we're as busy as we've ever been, and we are in need.
Yeah.
You know,
but
like,
now we can put a number, a definition
and that's what I'm going to allude to is that, you know, whether it's, you know, the deputy chief, the chief, or whoever is going to go up in front of the town and go, hey, you know, I've got the same amount of guys and we're doing double the amount of calls. Like, we need 2, 3, 4, 5 more guys. You know, the dream of, you know, having 9-man crews has just been, you know, slowly becoming, you know, almost like that's it. You know, it's a dream, because by the time we're like, oh yeah, here's 2 positions, now it's like, oh, this guy's retiring. Now we need another position. It's a constant cycle, and it is tough on the guys that are there now, as we go from averaging, you know, 10 calls a day to 20, 25 calls a day. You know, it makes the day go by fast, but you know, there is that effect where the guys are just like, man, I just need a break. I just need, you know, luckily we do have a schedule that allows us to get, like, you know, 5 days off.
Mm-hmm.
If you know, but again, like you alluded to before, a lot of guys do other jobs, and more power to them if you're working on a private ambulance, you know, because you're either going into the city and you're going to do double the amount of calls, or you're going to, you know, go into another service and you're doing even more EMS stuff. I would like to see more. I don't even know. I would like. It's a tough.
That's where, like, getting this program and running. Like, I would consider we're probably running at that program maybe 35-40%.
Yeah.
There's so much more I can do. And like anything, it takes a while for adoption or change.
Yeah, I mean, we're really just getting into it now.
If you can believe me, like, when I implement a new part of the program into the department and everyone's smiling at me when I'm doing it, because that's, you know, how that goes.
This is Bob's idea.
Yeah, this is Bob's. If this fails, we're hanging.
This is Bobby's idea.
And I'm only thinking, like, this. If I do it this way, this can free up time. This can make this part of the job easier. So when we're doing 20 calls a day, that there's one less thing we can really have to focus on. Before we had to do the NIFRS reporting on every call.
Yep.
And we narrowed it down that those NIFRS only take like a minute and a half, less than a minute and a half to click really fast. And one less or an improved part of the job. And I think that's, if we use these programs to get more monies, to get better grants, equipment grants, whatever, truck grants, because hey, this truck has been on 9,000 calls or whatever. We can use that to better. And a lot of people think that it's just, you know, changing the guard, or we have to do it this way because that old way was different. Like, no, it has more benefits. It's cloaked because you think it's just, oh, this is just a way to do the same job. We could have done it with a book, or we could have done it with a pen. Yeah, but now we can interpret that data a little better. Again, this is a really dorky situation,
Yeah,
and I'm sure when the guys are watching this, they're like, "Oh, you're such a dork."
Well, I would say that we're not getting as much, like, when you do introduce like new aspects of the program. I don't think you're getting as much pushback as we used to get.
Yeah.
Where it was just like, no, history, and that was the end of it. And we're like, okay.
Do you remember the coffee maker
my God,
fight?
dude,
We fought for like 4 months about a coffee maker. We were buying the same coffee maker,
Yeah.
just replacing it. Like, good men have drinking out of the
Yeah.
coffee maker.
Oh,
I'm
my
like, I know, but
that's
it has
with every-
mold in it.
that was with
We
everything.
got to get a new coffee maker. It's moldy.
You're like,
No,
no,
that's a good one.
we'll make this one.
It was
work.
like $150. It wasn't even a lot of money.
Yeah, I do remember that was also one of the battles there.
That's like, those things are kind of what makes the fire department great too. At the same point, because you get these little fights and these little squabbles, and you're like, I know this doesn't really matter, but
Outside of this building, this has no
This has no
validity. Yeah, everyone's ever like, no,
But,
this
like,
doesn't matter.
can we potentially stoke this flame and see how far this goes? Because we all do it.
Oh yeah.
We're like, hey, I don't think you should have said that. What do you mean?
What do you mean that happens?
It explodes.
So
I'm never guilty of doing that either.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, stoking the flame is just part of being
Yeah, that's part about being
a firefighter,
Yeah, being part of the guys. Yeah.
But with that, and we've touched on how things have moved forward, and getting busier
Yeah.
and things like that. And I think that's obviously it's inevitable, and we went through a lot of growing pains, and we're starting to like find there's no like real end. There's no end of the tunnel, no light at the end of the tunnel here, other than making our jobs easier for ourselves, making things run more effective, more efficient. Back when I was new, that was one of Bobby's favorite things to tell me, was always how to be more efficient.
Yeah, I still say that to the guys. Yeah.
And I probably am not nearly as efficient as Bobby is on the ambulance, but I
and
try
I would tell you very calmly, very collectively, never yell at you.
we need to be more efficient at this. I was like, okay. You don't know. And that was before, when we had to do our reports at the hospital. Now everything is like, all right, I'm done, let's go.
Yeah.
And you just get out of there. I mean, there's still departments around us that like to, sit at the hospital
I don't get that.
and write the reports for whatever reason. I don't know why, but
Go back to the station, start planning dinner.
do more important things like planning dinner.
I'm like a big proponent of that. I'm sure the guys love it. Like, what is for dinner? Like, Bob, it's 8:15. I
That's
know.
enough.
What are we doing?
We need to talk about it now.
Yeah. But what if we don't have time to make dinner?
Oh man, yeah, that's becoming a more common occurrence than.
Yeah.
I know the other day we had this whole thing planned out,
Yeah.
and that we managed to do it, but like we had this grand plan of quesadillas and burritos, and next thing you know it was, all right guys, here's all this stuff, just put it together and do whatever you want with it.
You either try to eat early, or you end up having to eat late, or somebody does, or
Yeah.
multiple ambulance crews have to. And it's just,
It's insane.
it's
It's insane how like
again, only problem in the fire service.
yeah, right. It's
the
insane.
police department would be like, all right, I'm gonna go home and just grab something to eat.
Yeah, and we've it still baffles my
Yeah.
mind that
Like, this doesn't
After-
happen in like a business world
yeah.
where they're at a conference table like, what's for dinner?
Yeah, but it has to be like, because that used to
Yeah.
be and it still is important.
Yeah.
But it used to be before, when we weren't doing as many calls, it was like, what's for dinner? And then you were like, okay, we had dinner. Now it's like, what's for dinner? Oh my God, I don't know if we'll be able to do that. I don't know if we can cook it. All right, this is the plan as you're running out the door, trying to tell,
Yeah.
the captain, hey, make sure you put this on the stove for this long and this. And he's like, okay.
But going back to the fire service and dinner, and I was told this young and on the crew by very smart admiral people that I still admire today, is that it's more than just making dinner for the guys. And you've experienced this because you were on our crew for a while. It's that guy's making dinner, and we're all around. We're all drinking coffee or doing something like, hey, you want to chop the onions? You don't chop right. I know how to chop onions. And it's an argument, but it's like a bonding experience. And it's like you're all like living together for 24 hours. You're like, everyone will always say, I guarantee you in every crew, it's always better shift when you're all together. When one guy's over here playing games, one guy's watching a TV show no one else wants to watch, one guy's reading, one guy's in the conference room, they're all hiding. And everyone's like, what? Where's everyone? What's everyone doing? But when you're all at that kitchen table and everyone's cooking and we're all yelling and joking and like, you see the football games? Well, yeah. That's better. That's always better to do it together. And you've touched on this with previous guests. It's being together, doing those calls together.
Yep.
So when we're together at the kitchen table or making dinner and there was a bad call or someone's having problems at home, you find that out real quick and you fight through it together and you discuss it together. And I think that's so that's why
solve the world's problems.
The guys
at
at
the
the crew
table.
will hopefully understand me more. That is why I push dinner so much.
They do say you push dinner.
I know they do. Because that's why.
It's very important.
Because we're doing it together. Why'd you buy yellow cheese? I like white cheese. Whatever, it's a cheeseburger, right? It's that camaraderie. And that's where it's built. It's built, yes, on the fire ground in the ambulance, but you got to keep it going for 24 hours. You always notice the guy that's hiding. You're like, why? What's going on? What's he doing? What's wrong with him? He's on the phone all the time. He's over there. He's hiding. He's in the dark. You always notice that. But when you're at the kitchen table, yelling at each other and joking, and they always say that's what you're going to miss the most when you retire. You're not going to miss the 3 a.m. wake ups.
No, I don't know why you would miss that. Why you would miss that anyways, but
but that is what you're going to miss.
Yeah.
So that is why I push that.
Well, I mean, and that's, I think you're 100% right. I think that, those times at the table, those times with all the fellas, you strive to get more time as a group.
Yeah.
And sometimes, being as busy as we are, it doesn't happen as much as everybody wants it to, and there's a lot of guys, because there's a lot of guys doing a lot of different things, like we said. Guys are in the other room studying for a test. Guys are in the room studying for a course. Guys are in the other room, editing a podcast. It's kind of it's like seeing, but then, like you said, you get to those, times where it's like, oh, it's time to, have dinner, and we're all there.
Yeah.
Then you're all there. And then that's when you talk about, everything. You talk about what's going on.
Plastic cups. They're killing everybody.
Yeah.
What do you know about plastic cups?
I don't want to talk anything about that stuff, but, but other than that, it's a fun time, and I think that's, Bob's right. You're going to miss those times more than, I know when, I don't know, many moons from now when it's our turn to retire, I'll miss more the guys than I'll miss, the job that I did, and whatever, the job is the job, but the job's only the job because of the fellas.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's that on that end there. Anything else you would like to briefly discuss, or we're getting towards that time where we like to wrap things up.
Yeah, it's been fun. This has been a fun time, but there's so much that we can discuss, and we can even do this again on a later date.
Absolutely.
There's, the changes in the fire service, I know everyone always worries about it, but there's changes everywhere.
Yep.
There's changes everywhere. We just had a big change in this country a couple of weeks ago. We're changes in people's healthcare, changes at home life. You never know. And I would say to everybody wanting to do the job, some people on the job, and people outside, retired from the job, is be adaptable. That's what we're getting paid to do, is be adaptable. Because we can go to a fire, oh, the house is on fire, and realize, oh, there's people in there. Now we can adapt our tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Before we were just going to go in there, kick doors down, flex our muscles, and spray water. But nope, rescue. We got to get these people out here. And then now it becomes a medical. Now we're like, hey, let that house burn. We get the people out. Let's get the people to safety. We have to be adaptable. We get on scene for carbon monoxide detector going off. Like, no, that's not carbon monoxide, that's smoke alarm. Like, you have to be adaptable. So when it comes to change, you have to be adaptable.
Mhm.
Hey, this is a paper PCR. All right, it's changing. Adapt to the new one. No,
Well, like they say,
Yeah.
change is inevitable.
well, you can say it's change, but you can also say it's evolution.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
we're evolving, and you have to evolve. Like your lieutenant on your crew with EV fires. He realized, he's in charge of maintenance in our vehicles and a lot of equipment, and he realized that the amount of vehicles that are becoming electric is evolving. So now we need to evolve our tactics so we can evolve and fight those fires.
yeah.
It's a change,
Oh yeah.
but it's a natural evolution
And it's not just a change in the service; it's a change
in mindset.
Yeah, and in the, the countries, electric vehicles is becoming a thing.
And electric vehicles are cool.
Yeah.
And he always, me and him fight like dogs about it for some reason.
Everyone loves electric vehicles.
According to him, I'm 25% owner stake in Tesla or
Yeah,
something.
you're a big Tesla guy.
I don't even own a Tesla. It's always my fault. The fucking thing burned down. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not my fault.
Nice.
So it's changed. Being adaptable.
Yeah.
You're adapting right now. You're finding a niche. You're evolving. You're like, hey, I can spread word and good of the fire service by creating a podcast.
Yeah.
You're taking your experience and other people's experiences and broadening what we do. And you're adapting right now. You're evolving right now.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm doing my best here.
Yeah.
I can only do so much with 2 mics and a camera, but
Yeah. But you will adapt and evolve.
yeah,
You
it's
never
good.
know.
It's getting there. We enjoy it.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. This is more about enjoying it, getting to talk with a lot of my friends, and
Yeah.
we just happen to talk about all sorts of different stuff, including today talking about the the evolution of the fire service and things and changes that we've seen in our 11, 12, 13 years.
I will say, Andy wanted to talk about the penguin.
And we'll save that for another time. We'll save that for another time.
We wanted to talk about it, but we had fun.
Super.
Yeah.
It would be a super spoiler alert, but the next time, because we would love to have you on the podcast again, Bobby.
Yeah, no, I would love to as well.
And here, as we wrap things up, just like today and every other episode you'll listen to, lots of great conversation here on the Gabbin with Goody podcast.